Welcome back to Movie Sandwiches. Today we're looking at the 2022 adventure comedy drama film 777 Charlie. Spoilers ahead, so be ready. Let's begin. In a lonely house which is situated in India, hundreds of dogs are being held as prisoners by an extremely cruel breeder. However, one night, one brave puppy makes the leap and escapes the house, never to come back again. Elsewhere in a quiet and peaceful society lives a hard-headed lonely man named Dharma. Dharma has been living a lonely life ever since his parents died in a tragic accident when he was very small. His everyday now begins with waking up, getting some food, and then heading to work. He then comes back home, drinks his regular beer, has a cigarette, and goes to sleep. Despite living in quite a lovely society, Dharma has no friends, and neither does he intend to have anyone in his life. Dharma has well settled into his life of loneliness and is okay with it. In his office, Dharma has never taken a single day's leave and is considered the best employee in the whole company. However, there too he has no one that he can call a friend and often stays away from all the chaos that people bring to him. But all of this was about to change as the puppy from earlier stumbles into Dharma's society. Dharma unknowingly had been feeding the puppy, since he always threw out the food that he felt was extra as he lived alone. This had already increased the puppy's affinity to the man, and she had taken a liking to Dharma. One day there's a huge party going on in the society hosted by some local politicians. Despite the society's people's wishes, there is loud music and noises, and most importantly, fireworks. At first, Dharma doesn't care what the others are doing and refuses to meddle with the party planners even when requested by the society's people. However, when nighttime arises, the loud noise and fireworks disturb Dharma so much that he can't sleep. Outside, the puppy is also super scared due to the loud noises, and she cowers behind her usual garbage disposal. Just then Dharma wakes up in a fit of rage and marches to the party. He trashes the whole place and one by one beats up all the hooligans, creating a ruckus. After decimating the party, Dharma finally breathes a sigh of relief and heads back to his home. The puppy watches all of this happen, and now there's no doubt in her mind about whom she can trust. For the next few days the puppy starts following Dharma around. Much to his annoyance, anywhere he goes she shows up, and most importantly she also shows up at his home. Dharma is super annoyed at the dog showing up everywhere he goes and tries to ignore it all he can. However, one day as he's coming back from work being followed by the puppy, one of the hooligans from his colony drives recklessly and ends up hitting the puppy with his motorbike. Everyone flocks to the hooligan's rescue and curses the puppy, who is wailing in the streets. Dharma gives one look at the puppy and then walks back to his home. However, the guilt of leaving a helpless animal by the streets is not something that Dharma can bear, and he quickly rushes to the puppy's aid and takes it to the local vet. At first the puppy's extremely scared of the needles and the doctors, but soon she calms down and they treat her properly. Thankfully the puppy escapes with very little damage and will recover soon enough. Dharma had now done his job and wanted to get back to his normal life, but the doctor Ashwin won't just let him leave the puppy at the hospital. Dharma is adamant that it was not his puppy and that he wanted nothing to do with the little one. But Ashwin is also pretty pushy about the fact that they can't add more puppies too. There already large list of puppies. Instead, the doctor proposes that if anyone comes to adopt a dog at his hospital, he would recommend the puppy. Until then, however, Dharma had to take care of the puppy. It would only be a matter of days, 4 days to be exact, and everything would be settled by then. Dharma once again calmly tells the doctor that dogs aren't even allowed in his society, so this whole idea was a no-go, but the doctor shows no sign of budging. In the end, Dharma takes the dog back to his place hidden under his shirt. Over the next few days Dharma takes care of the dog, but with little care. And the puppy isn't really a good girl either. She pretty much wrecks his place every time and gives him a lot of trouble. Especially when the ice cream ads come on TV with snowflakes falling from the sky. That puppy gets super excited and barks and screams. She seems to be too fond of snow and ice cream, but Dharma just finds all of this irritating. At one point Dharma even leaves the puppy at the park, but one of the local school girls brings it back to his place. Dharma had no way that he could escape from taking care of Charlie. Soon the promised 4 days are over and time passes on to 2 weeks, but there's no response from the doctor. So Dharma calls him up to find some solution for the puppy as soon as possible. Dr. Ashwin tells Dharma that the puppy is too thin and looks barely healthy, which is why they needed to feed her properly and make her look better so that adopters would snatch her away. Up until now, Dharma had been feeding the puppy the same idly that he had been eating. But now he starts bringing in proper dog food just so that she could get healthier and he could get rid of her. A few more weeks passed by and soon the puppy grows big and strong, but it's genetic and still have no end. The doctor had finally managed to find a family for the puppy. All she had to do was be a good girl. On the day that the family arrives to check her out, the puppy creates a big mess and almost trashes Dharma his entire home. There was no way the family was taking in such a poorly trained dog, and so the deal was off. Dharma was stuck with a puppy. Even so, Dharma was still adamant to get rid of the puppy as soon as he could, and the doctor advises him to get a dog license, which would make him a proper dog owner and make the whole adoption process authentic. So Dharma goes to the place where they distribute the license and meets up with the animal rights officer Devika. Devika needs to gather some information before she hands out the license, but Dharma hasn't even given the puppy a name. When Devika asks him for a name, the guy simply calls the puppy Choo Choo. During the whole process, Devika finds Dharma's behavior strange and feels that the guy is not someone to be trusted with the life of another being. So the very next day, Devika and her colleagues appear at Dharma's house to check if he was treating the dog properly. Even though there are no signs of any torture in the room, Devika still warns Dharma that there are severe punishments for people who do not treat their animals properly. Soon after she leaves, Dharma notices that the puppy had gone outside and had not returned. He goes out to call the puppy back but has a panic attack and falls to the ground. On his way to the hospital, the puppy follows the ambulance and races behind it. There's no one to take care of Dharma at the hospital. As for his whole life, he had been alone. However, this time the puppy is there for him. Dharma watches as the dog wails for him and now has a change of heart. He starts liking the dog and the changes in his life that it had brought. But soon enough, another set of adopters arrive at his home to take the puppy away. This time the family takes the dog without any question, and Dharma, who had always been in favor of giving her away, can only sit and watch her leave with tears in his eyes. A few days later, however, Dharma is called to sign the papers for the puppy and reaches the house of the family, which has been trashed by the puppy as she did with Dharma's house. He smiles and carries the puppy back to his home, and the family doesn't even stop him, probably because of how much trouble she had been to them. Dharma had finally gotten his life back. He was no longer the lonely and hard-headed man that he was before. He feels happy after such a long time. With a puppy entering his life, everything changes and he finds a different perspective on life. With his newfound happiness in his life, Dharma names the puppy Charlie, as it's his favorite show, Charlie Chaplin. Life has been going all too well for the two, until one day, Charlie doesn't want to let Dharma head to his work. Dharma can't figure out why Charlie's acting up and hands her the ball before leaving for his work. Anyway, when Dharma finally comes back from his office, he still sees Charlie at the same place where he had left her earlier. At first, Dharma thinks that she had swallowed the ball and quickly takes her to the hospital, apologizing for his mistake. However, the doctor tells him that it wasn't that which was making Charlie sick, but that she had cancer. Dharma is shocked. He had taken care of Charlie the best he could. How could she have such a disease? The doctor assures him that it wasn't his fault, it was in fact a genetic disease common in dogs that were inbred for selling. And this was all the fault of the breeder. The cancer had already spread and there was no way that it could be treated. The medicines could help prolong her life, but that's it. Dharma is devastated. All he had wanted was Charlie, and now she too was being taken away from him. At home, Dharma soaks and is sad and doesn't know what to do, but suddenly decides that it's better to do something rather than soaking about everything. He decides to show Charlie snow, since he knew that this was what she had always been very excited about. The two partners then head out on their journey all the way from South India to Shimla, where they plan to see the snow on the mountains. But before everything else, Dharma manages to locate the location of the cruel breeder, who was responsible for Charlie's issues, with the help of the doctor. He heads straight to his lonely house and beats the man to a pulp, and burying him neck deep inside the ground as a punishment. Elsewhere, Devika, who had cheekily placed a tracker on Charlie, realizes that Dharma had left with Charlie and sends her people to the location where they find hundreds of dogs and the breeder. They take the breeder into custody, and while the others manage the newly found puppies, Devika pursues Dharma and eventually finds him locked up in a jail cell. Apparently Charlie had gone berserk on the streets chasing a mouse and broke the window of a police car. And so she and her owner Dharma were locked up. Devika reluctantly frees them both and tags along with Dharma and Charlie so that she can free Charlie from the evil man when she has the chance. Halfway along the journey, however, she's informed that Charlie was the one who had stopped the breeder in his tracks and saved all those dogs. Devika finally accepts her mistake and even helps the duo out a little. She contacts her friends from Travel Diaries and helps Dharma and Charlie tell their story to the world. Finally Devika parts ways as well, and it's once again Dharma and Charlie on the road. The journey goes smoothly, but soon the duo starts having financial problems. Dharma is unable to get the money he was promised from his company, and they're forced to sell whatever they have for food and supplies. Soon even their gas runs out and the bike is no longer of any use. Thankfully for them, a helpful man named Boxy and his dog Blackie give the two a ride, and even a place to stay for a couple of days. Boxy is also a broken man whose wife left him because of their failing relationship. Blackie, his dog, was the only one who had remained to his side till the very end. And so he will love the dog to his death. While on their stay with Boxy and Blackie, Charlie develops quite the relationship with Blackie, and the two are almost inseparable. However, their journey had to be made, so the two are forced to part. A few days later, once more the bike's gas runs out, and this time with no choice left, Dharma sells the bike and the two make the rest of their journey by bus. Everything seems in order still and they're poised to reach the destination on time, but turns out the road ahead was blocked by a landslide. And the army would not let anyone pass due to safety reasons. Dharma goes ballistic and demands a passage through, but the army won't just let anyone through. When Dharma tries to force his way through, the soldiers drag him to their superior. Luckily for them, the army head is also a fan of Travel Diaries and has read their entire story. He then allows them to stay at the army camp and head to the hill the next morning after everything is cleared by the army. Early next morning the duo then set out to see the snow fall for the very first time, and the two have an amazing time together. And perhaps the final few moments with each other. After having a fun day, they return back to the camp. Set to return back home the next day. That night suddenly Dharma jolts from his sleep and sees that Charlie is nowhere around. He runs around looking for his friend and finds her in a small shed on the hill, tired and almost devoid of life. Dharma finds her there and holds her in his arms, hugging his only friend one last time as she takes her final breath. He screams in agony as she dies. But then suddenly Dharma hears another dog cry from inside the shed. It's a small puppy. Charlie's puppy that she had given birth to. Dharma finally realizes the purpose of his life and returns back home along with Charlie's pup. Back at home, Dharma opens up a new animal rescue center named after his dear friend Charlie. Although Charlie was already gone, Dharma still remembers his dear friend and how she changed his life. So this is all for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. Subscribe for more content like this and hit the like button to help us out. Also leave a comment if you want us to make a video of your favorite movie. Until next time, take care.